Every smart individual told me this will never work in India. Women will not stay, never feel safe. Nobody will pay more than $200.
There is a Zostel coming up or existing here. How do you think I could be looking at this as a business person?
I think the first thing, if you can see a hostel coming up, buy land around, be rich. This is probably the only industry in which India is 10x ahead of America. The wallet share of an individual who is backpacking is spending $80 out of 100 on other things. That is our ecosystem contribution.
Talk to me about what you learned about the Indian traveler, which maybe a person outside the hospitality space would probably not understand intuitively.
Unless I had stepped out from Jodhpur to Pilani, I was in my beautiful bubble. I used to think that I'm the smartest individual in this city, as a 14-year-old kid. But when I came back and I interacted with the same environment, I realized that earlier I was in a bubble.
How do you ensure that some principles of Zostel, could be safety, could be an experience, all of those principles are still abided by while maintaining creative liberty for the partner that you have?
We have a central system and everybody's connected. 4,000, 5,000 people staying with us every day. So we get half of them as feedback. So basis that feedback, we are able to objectify it. We are also doing and innovating something that has not been done ever in the industry.
Let's maybe take the example of a girl whose parents are a little more scared to let her go out, just protective about her.
Right.
There's so many of them around.
No, that's been our, I would say, thousands of emails and messages. It does feel nice that somebody is getting permission to travel because of Zostel.
You as a company do not advertise. You don't do celebrity endorsements. You don't do influencer ads, etc.
We never had a demand problem.
Welcome to the Decoding Brands podcast. I'm your host Anurag Bansal, and in this episode, I spoke to Dharamveer Singh Chouhan, who's the founder of Zostel, which is India's biggest travel hostel brand. Now, what is very fascinating about Zostel is that they were the first ones who turned solo travel and backpacking into something acceptable and more mainstream in India. In this podcast, we spoke about how they built trust in a completely unorganized category, how they made hostels aspirational for young travelers, and what it really takes to build a brand where practically no rules exist. So if you are interested in how consumer behavior and culture come together to create entirely new categories, I'm very, very sure that you will love this conversation as much as I did while recording it. This podcast, by the way, was done with the support of Zerodha 01 Media Network. And with that, let's get into it.
Hey, Divi, how are you?
I'm good.
Super.
Nice meeting you, Anurag.
Likewise, super happy to have you on this podcast. It's been long coming. We've been talking for a while. So yeah, glad to finally have you and sit down with you. And yeah, I think on this podcast, like we've spoken offline as well, the larger idea is to talk about culture, travel, your insights building Zostel, which is one of India's biggest hostel chains and hospitality chains for that matter. So I want to understand everything, and the angle that I want to keep with all of this is from the perspective of somebody who wants to build a brand or somebody who wants to travel, and basically somebody who wants to understand the cultural nuances of what it really takes to build a brand. We'll largely be talking to younger folks, roughly below the age of 25.
Sweet.
So we'll keep everything in and according that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll actually start with this interesting question that I got asked by my friend when I told him that, I'm hosting you on a podcast. How would you really define hostels or Zostel for that matter to a person who has absolutely no idea about backpacking, solo travel, or whatever that may entail? How would you really describe a hostel or a Zostel to them?
Firstly, I have a lot of hope. Nice to hear that this is for Gen Zs and people under 25, because I do believe that, it's a lot of conditioning that happens. You learn a lot of things along the way. Sometimes you need to go back. And I think to understand yourself is where I truly believe traveling, why I made, I wanted backpacker hostels to exist in India. I learned a lot more in backpacker hostels than in IIT or IIM or any school. And each of us has such a unique journey. How do you even share it freely? You can't go to a hotel and talk with a random stranger. They'll call security on you. And so, to have safe spaces in which people can interact, understand each other, and through that, understand themselves, their own weaknesses. It's a new age, I will say, to get away from where you are already attracted. You go to a hostel, you're able to reflect upon who you are, what you want to do. And in that sense, I wanted that to exist. And I'm very happy that, that revolution has happened today. There are tens of thousands of backpacker hostels in India.
Right.
So very happy.
Awesome. That's a big revolution for sure. And we've all seen that happen over the last, 10, 12 years or so in India. And that's fabulous. In fact, I just recently, I told you, I just came back from Europe. And that's one of the most backpacker-friendly continents, so to speak, in the world.
They led the culture. I also picked up from my European travels the whole idea of a backpacker hostel.
Yeah, super. So you briefly mentioned that you learned a lot more when you were in hostels or when you were backpacking than you learned in your college or your MBA. Tell me more about it. Do you have any specific examples or specific anecdotes? What were those learnings like?
So in my life, since I had 10 years old, I had a plan that I want to make a living making games.
Okay.
And we all
When you say game, computer games?
computer games. Computer games. This is year 2000.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a 10-year-old kid. I'm playing games all day. So my imagination. Now people are asking, what do you want to do when you grow up, right? And eventually I was able to learn that this is all part of culture, how I am myself conditioned myself, all of those things. Right? So anyways, I had a plan. I followed through that plan. I ended up at Pilani, a boarding school. I ended up at Kota. I ended up at IIT BHU. I started my first startup as a gaming studio in 2009. I ran that for 3 years. Then I had a heartbreak. I had to shut it down. And after that, I went to a backpacking trip, right? Sometimes, that is the time, when you have lost a lot, you go to the hostels, to pick yourself up, right? And so I was backpacking and I met these Australians over there, and I was sitting quietly in the common room. They dragged me, they got a Jägermeister, we had good shots and everything. And then during those discussions, I asked them also, hey, what are you doing? So they had no plans, right? They were like, we don't know what we are doing in our lives. And that hit me pretty hard. I've seen such great people, but everybody has to get the best job. And therefore, you have a plan and you think that's the best way to live your life. And then you make money to figure out that, hey, maybe this is not what I wanted. So it's sooner rather than later, you can discover what you want. You'll have a lesser energy wastage, right? You'll all come back to the same thing, right? We all keep doing it. So in that fashion, I really hoped I'd seen a lot of empathy. I just felt a lot of, I will say also pain towards a lot of people who are not able to follow what they want to do. Because of various reasons, maybe less privilege, maybe we induce our own fears. So I think Backpacker Hostel just lets you live. Hey, you'll have a good night's sleep. And during those backpacker trips, then one time I got lost, and I was totally lost. And it was midnight. I ended up at outskirts in Barcelona at a suburb over there. End of the day, I had a backpack. I slept I had a friend with me, but we found a rock, and just behind the rock on beach side, there's nothing we could do. It was a total pitch dark, midnight, nothing's gonna happen, and I just slept, looked at the stars and had an amazing sleep, amazing sleep. And the fourth year's coming, so everybody, especially those who are, maybe able to watch in the final year, there's artificial pressure, right? Everybody's I got to best job, etc. So I just came back with the idea of having fun, no job, nothing, we'll just play cricket and poker and figure things out. Because I wanted to do my startup when I graduated from IIT. I was very focused on it. I didn't do anything. For the first 3 years, while everybody else was having fun, I was very focused on learning to Photoshop and coding and everything. And then in that fashion, that entrepreneurial chapter ended. By God's grace, lucky things happened. Zynga came to India. All of that trip completed. I became the youngest game designer that Zynga had ever hired.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, in 2012 and all. But then, I realized it was my own plan, my own thinking. I kept all of that aside.
Right.
And this whole idea that, hey, what does it mean? Anything's possible. Can I have a backpacking revolution in India? And especially along with that, just the impossibilities of life. I think when that reflected upon me, I had to ponder a bit deeper on it. And that then manifested in this direction that, hey, can I make the best company for myself and my friends from IIM Calcutta? And just doing things that I would love to do, bringing a traveling revolution in India. It wasn't infinite for me back then, as a young kid who had a failed startup in IIT days. So in IIM once again, but I knew how to start within the college campus.
Right.
Great people joined, and since that, I think after the initial design, it's largely amazing team members and co-founders who did a lot more work, I'll say, than me.
Yeah.
And we raised our first $1 million before we graduated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that whole cycle of, creating the best job for yourself from the best institute without zero worry, just by having fun. Anybody can do it, is what I discovered myself.
So what I'm hearing is it just gives you a very low or no pressure environment where you can just sort of be with yourself in a way that no other environment, especially in India in most cases, because we're all in that pressure or high intensity environment all the time where we just need to perform or just compete, etc.
That's there, and then there's so much love, right? So there's so much love in India you are not able to see, right? The bondages come with love as disguised, right?
What do you mean by that?
Like why do we get married, let's say?
Okay.
Like you have a family design system that, you are expected to get married at a time. You want to make money so that your parents, like largely if you ask in colleges, why are you doing things and why do you want the best job? If you'll inquiry deep enough, it might end up at parents. It will make my parents happy.
100%.
I want to go to IIT. So that's what I'm talking about. Nothing else.
Got it.
It's right in front of us, and hopefully, Gen Z is able to be more free and, our kids, we don't, you have to teach people to think for themselves and then let them be.
Fair enough.
Rather than telling them that I know more what is good for you than you do.
Yeah, because of course the world's changing at a pace that none of us can imagine at this point in time. So self-reflection is pretty cool.
Right. So that's good at Zostels. I think when people travel at Zostels, they do crazy things. And I think a lot of them then go out to make more backpacker hostels, right? At their own places. There's so many cool brands now out there.
Yeah.
So many independent brands, and especially with us also. Like we are very open to anybody who wants to open a backpacker hostel anywhere in India. So I'm still thinking that it's very early age of our revolution.
I mean, since you're talking about other people making backpacker hostels, you've been the pioneer of sorts in this industry. You were the first one in India to do this. Right. When you were doing this back in, I'm guessing 2012, what actually made you believe that there could be a brand or a common language that could exist when it came to hostels? Because my understanding is back then, first of all, hostels would not even exist in most cases. But even if they did in some silos, they'd be very, individual, unbranded guest house type situations.
Yeah. There were almost none, maybe 1 or 2 in Goa.
Yeah. So where I'm coming from is more to understand why would you not build individual hostels, let's say 50 of them, versus why did you think of building it as a unified brand in the name of Zostel or whatever?
I did write a very nice Why Zostel blog, before I even went off, and the whole idea was to, really lead the revolution. This is the way to travel. There is so much beauty in India, and somehow we lost it, in front of us in everything. And unless you're doing slow travel, you're traveling to explore different places, experience different things, meeting other people. Are you even traveling? Are you really just traveling for Instagram photos or, doing a checklist that I went to Agra to see Taj Mahal or whatever, for that matter. And I truly hope that, once you travel a lot more, you seek yourself, the truth, etc. And then, then you do your own things, then there's nothing beyond that. And if I do answer your inquiry, I never knew. It was just like that, but there are, you want to reach a place where you don't know. Then you want to do things. If there is something that people already know, why should you even do it? And in that fashion, I started off from that core idea. I asked around, I talked with people. I had my seniors who were working at places that what do anybody feels about backpacker hostels. Every smart individual told me this will never work in India.
Okay.
They had various reasons. Women will not stay, never feel safe. Nobody will pay more than $200, and I started off with 500 or something.
Okay.
And I kept looking and thinking myself that I would love for this to be, so I just did inquire everything. I did a lot of research reports. I went through, you won't believe, thousands of dollars of research. From Euromonitor, Crystal, everything that's accessible at our IIT library, IM library, travel research reports.
Okay.
And I would try to understand that, hey, what's happening? What's the trend? I probably still have that Dropbox with hundreds of researches. And I did almost 2 years of inquiry that, why it doesn't exist. And when I couldn't find an answer, then I put all of my own money and started the first hostel in Jodhpur, started writing emails to my friends. And by God's grace, amazing people joined. And rest is history. We are sitting here now.
Superb. That's a beautiful journey to have lived. So you've spoken a lot about, travelers and how you've tried to build this culture, and you've been very close to this culture of sorts. Talk to me about what you learned about the Indian traveler, which maybe a person outside the hospitality space or the, hostel space, so to speak, would probably not understand intuitively. What have you specifically understood in your experience?
See, I do believe that, everyone is a traveler.
Okay.
We are not born with roots. We are born with legs, right? So you're bound to travel, right? And even if I take a look back and see at things, a lot of our system, like way we are living, Saturday, Sunday is weekend, Monday to Friday is work. They're all industrial age design and everything. And especially with the information age, inflection coming so rapidly.
Yeah.
Things are going to move so fast, and I can totally feel it in my bones that, people are going to travel a lot more. And now when I look at it, I think unless I had stepped out from Jodhpur to Pilani, I was in my beautiful bubble. I used to think that I'm obviously the smartest individual in this city, as a 14-year-old kid, arrogantly overconfident, right? But when I came back and I interacted with the same environment, I realized that earlier I was in a bubble. Nothing, but you can then reflect upon the same conversation and say, hey, I used to find meaning in these, there's something deeper, right? And probably that inspired me to keep at least travel and learn from the outside. If you're कुएं के मेंढक ही रहोगे क्या? कैसे आप खुद को झूठी बोल दोगे? Right? You want to lie to yourself that, hey, I know, what is Rajasthan, I know what is Varanasi and Kerala, and I know. Then lie to yourself. Live a life, worth lies.
So you come from Rajasthan, and you obviously, I'm sure you've explored Rajasthan quite a bit at this point in time, from different lenses, from a regular traveler's lens, from a business person's lens, from a backpacker's lens, etc. If you were to today convince a youngster to go explore himself or herself, and let's say go explore Rajasthan, what were the things you would tell them about from your experience which actually make them, interested in going around and traveling?
Right.
Zostel is a different story, but travel or no travel is the first thing.
Right. I think there's legacy. I think one of the key things that stands out for Rajasthan is the deep-rooted origins of from, let's say Marwar, Mewar, and everything over there, for thousands of years of castles and forts, and something that, in UK people like seeing old castles, in Scotland and every places. So I think a lot of reflection of the British Raj that happened across India, in that fashion. They obviously ruled with the kings, so the kings have their own very large forts and palaces in Rajasthan. So that is over there.
But honestly, those I think is also something a person who would, let's say, live in a hotel or would travel with, let's say, their families would also look at, right? Those are the...
Everyone should look at that.
Correct. So what I'm trying to understand a little better is how would I see Rajasthan differently as a person who's going with family versus as a backpacker?
I think when you come with family, you do come to, from an experience side, maybe that's why, you probably said from the British Raj side, there's a 25,000 grand, 1 lakh grand, 2 lakh, probably the best hostels in India are the ranked in Udaipur Fort or the Lake Palace in Udaipur, the Umaid Bhavan Palace in Jodhpur. They're like Asia's top 10 hotels. And also when it comes to pushing luxury on the edge, from Ambani's weddings to, Shane Warne's, or that's the one side.
Yeah.
But along with that, what you are saying that, when you want to be on the streets, you want to be in the streets, you want to eat the lassi, you want to understand, let's say the kachori origins, or let's say the samosa. You can't yet, I think, Zomato's and Swiggy have to still figure out, the exporting the samosa that you get on raw over there. So I think just like every time, when you're traveling as a backpacker, you'll see any place with much more awareness, with your true eyes, from the streets, not from the cars, lenses. And when you are on the streets and you're interacting, you get to see the local culture. You get to understand that, hey, how this thing shaped up. When you travel and stay for at least a couple of weeks, you should be able to understand and get the love of Jodhpur. Every place has its own style. Every place has its own soul. So if you're there in Rajasthan, and there's a lot of diversity in Rajasthan also. From Udaipur, I went first time to Udaipur. My wife's from there. I'm from Jodhpur. I never knew that there are so beautiful lakes and water in Rajasthan also.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing is no agenda travel or no itinerary travel, so to speak.
Absolutely. What else? If you're like, then do your business travel. Then you do it, and then okay, fine. You travel from someone else's eyes.
Right.
At least if you're staying at a hostel, even while you're traveling for business, you'll get to meet other travelers, exchange their stories. And I do believe that it's one world at the end of the day. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So the more you can learn and live with others through others, it should help you.
So I have an interesting question from experience. So whenever I travel, I always have this sunk cost. I'll tell you what I mean. I'm like, itna paisa to kharcha ho gaya. Let's assume for once 3 lakh rupees. Random example. I'm like, I'm already spending 3 lakh rupees to get to a particular destination. I can't convince myself to not have a plan or not have an itinerary. I can't just say, okay, I will figure it out, because then I will always be worried that I will either waste my time or I will not do justice to it, etc. So even though I would possibly love to backpack, I would love to go explore, etc. Local food, local whatever hidden spots in the city. I'm just not able to convince myself at the home level or at my laptop level when I'm just planning my trip out that, okay, this is something that I could potentially look at doing. So I'm sure there are so many other people also in those shoes, because I've spoken to, again, my experience comes from my area of friendship, etc.
Right.
But I've seen so many people in those shoes. How do you think somebody could sort of overcome that? Because I think that is the fundamental root challenge as to why a lot of people would not be traveling. I'm a classic example of that myself.
Zostel. So it's not like we have invented backpackers. Right. So people with their Lonely Planet books have been coming to India since the very ages, post-independence, pre-independence as well. Cox and Kings and SOTC are among the world's largest travel agencies. They both have Indian origins, right? So people have always been traveling. Even before we started, let's say, Zostel, and for the initial 2 years when we started with Zostel, only inbound travelers used to come.
Okay.
Because they were the ones, let's say, who were anyway struggling on the edges, with their Lonely Planets and books and trying to figure out where they can find places that they can travel.
Sorry, when you say inbound, you mean people coming into India?
People coming into India, people from hundreds of countries.
Okay.
They would leave the hostel. They would sleep on the stairs. That's how this brand has formed, from love from the whole world. I think the Indian aspirants then followed through, right? We are still, I wish it was different, but there are still times when we are in colonial hangover, right? We like to see, a global brand, much more validated. But regardless, I'll come to, where we are today. And you asked that, I think where it is happening now with Zostel, objectively speaking, if we are able to quantify the number of trips that youth is doing today over the last decade, that would be many folds increased. Because at the fundamental level, there is an ecosystem development that's happening.
Right.
Okay, so you might have a larger threshold, but it's a spectrum. Right? At the end of the day, there's family and young kid that we are carrying and staying in a luxurious 5-star, maybe sometimes with our family, right? And then there may be somebody like a Shankaracharya or Naga Baba who doesn't need anything. He'll have his own, doesn't even need footwear. He can travel India on his feet in over 1 year. Who is stopping them? Nobody is stopping them. It's their desire to travel. Where we are doing is that I'm building those pillars that, hey, Anurag, I have got internet now, Anurag. Okay, please book one-way ticket and come, have some faith. Stay for a week. Don't start with money, man. What will you do with money? You're a young man. You have to spend everything on yourself. Okay. If you're trying that, if you can't beat compounding the money, then buy Bitcoin and then don't even exist. If you have to spend money, spend in yourself, learn new things. There's nothing more cheaper and affordable than traveling and learning, right? So do that. 10x yourself. Money, you'll make money, man. You'll make 30 lakhs, 3 crores you'll make. Stop thinking like that.
No, I mean, interesting. So tell me this, now that we're on the page of, why people would travel, etc., we've sort of been able to establish those things. Do you think as a business, you've seen a change pre-COVID versus post-COVID, given that work from home has become a lot more prominent, workation has become a lot more prominent, etc.? Do you think that's been a change in the reason why people travel in terms of, let's say, now that they have flexibility of working from home, they would possibly want to come to a hostel and work for, let's say, 10 days, whatever days. Have you seen that actually play out?
I truly wish, it was a lot more, I think, but now we have touched the natural symmetry. And what I mean by that is, there was a natural progression of, let's say, the youth traveling, people getting remote jobs, hustling, freelancing, etc. Then we got to COVID, right? So for a moment, no one's traveling. Everyone has a remote job, right? And then, let's say, for 2 years, once COVID opened up, still in remote jobs, a lot more travel, but gradually that has dipped off to our aggregate pattern. So there's a wave, but natural pattern. Now it's again at the natural symmetry level.
Interesting.
So we did see a bump. Maybe if you asked me this question 2 years before, I would have told you that, hey, the trends totally changed, etc. But very happy to inform you that it's a natural progression. People are figuring things out, but also happy to tell you that the natural progression naturally is leading towards people doing these more intellectual jobs, figuring things out, internet connectivity. So it's an increasing trend in which people are working while they are traveling. And we have also become a totally, remote and hybrid first company.
Oh, wonderful.
So pushing ourselves also for the culture. We want to make it possible, and we are very hopeful that, people will travel and work and build, and that will be a Zo world, a new world in which, we consider the whole world as our home, rather than just one place and one office.
Interesting, beautiful. I think, so I just want the audience to get a very, very clear picture at this point in time in what it genuinely means or feels like to live in a hostel. Any hostel, be a backpacker. So why don't you just walk me through, an average day in a life of a person who would come in a backpack in, let's say, a hostel.
It's very, very different and unique for every individual. There are things that cannot be quantified in words.
Right.
It's truly like saying, hey, just tell me, how does it taste to eat an apple? Okay, we'll try. How does it feel to meet God? And so truly, how does it feel to be in a backpacker hostel, you have to go to a backpacker hostel and live that life, And if you're still worried about India, which shouldn't be, okay, then go to Europe and do backpacker hostels, okay. Then come back and build amazing backpacker hostels with us and our community in India. Okay, but, it's very diverse, so there's a whole calendar that runs, say 6 a.m., 7 a.m., the property managers, etc. We get fresh air in the property. So we look at the property itself like a living organism, right? And there might be a cafe that starts kicking off at 7, 8 a.m., So the whole idea is that there are travelers and we have to accommodate each and every culture. So somebody might be there for paragliding, somebody might be there for late night chilling, somebody might be there for staying zoned in like you, maybe doing their own thing. Somebody might be there who's dating, but like the common theme is that they all appreciate each other around. There's a community angle to it. Right? So people might, have some intermingling and have their own space. Common room is there, vacation area is there, things around that happen. You see what are the official activities that are maybe planned throughout the day. So the whole idea of a backpacker hostel is that you don't stay in your room, you are here to explore and experience. So there might be a morning yoga that might be happening, you might sleep through it. Then there might be a 10 a.m. trek that might be going somewhere. There might be a lunch city tour that might be happening. There might be a evening surfing lesson that might be happening. So you'll see a lot of activities, things to do all around Zostel with other partners and everybody. And so that whole ecosystem then matures. And then towards the evening, so you mostly go outside, you have food, you travel, you go do a chat walk or a food walk or a street tour, etc. You probably come back, you freshen up, you come downstairs to the common room in the evening, you find other people, and then the whole community angle starts a lot more. You get to share, hey, where do you went in the day? What did you see? Maybe some people went together. They have already become friends during the tours and shared experiences. So there's always a guitar in all hostels. There might be a PS5, there's a Mafia game, there's a Jenga. So we do a lot of those activities that can bring people more together. So from anything and everything, depending on the hostel, from playing box cricket, from doing tug of wars, to Uno, to Jenga, and I think from the first hostel itself, I loved experiences. I gave everything that I had, my Xbox and everything to the first hostel, just that something sticks up.
Well, this is fabulous. I mean, I personally had a couple of hostel experiences. I told you I've been to Varkala recently, just a couple of months back, lived in a hostel. I'd gone to Vietnam, so I'd done a hostel experience there just for a couple of days. I mean, we were 4 friends. We were in the same dorm room, but we just wanted to experience hostel in terms of the common room, etc. But I absolutely relate with you there. And, there's so much more depth to it than what can be actually explained, to be very honest.
Right. I truly believe my life changed, right? Yeah. Through backpacker hostel. And I'll be humble about it. That I don't think, I was lost in life, what to do, how to do things, college is coming to an end. Finding your own self and peace and then, continuing in life. So I hope that others also, and I'm still at that step 1 only. There's nothing more to it. And I'm still on that journey.
I think this is actually very powerful because, I've been thinking about this on and off for a while now, because given the amount of information overload we have in our lives, normal lives every day, there's, social media, now with AI, there's like absolute overload of everything in terms of information.
This podcast
also for that matter, you're right. But yeah, I mean, think about it. There's so much that we consume and we need to take a decision on every day that we probably don't even create enough conscious space for ourselves to be able to think into what we are. We're always on to what others are saying, what others are writing, what others are talking about, etc. So I think, what I'm taking away from that is you probably have it inside you in a lot of cases, probably a lot of knowledge, probably a lot of, curiosity in some sense, probably a lot of, many other things that, we probably don't even give ourselves time to be able to explore, which I think is a very, very interesting cultural and, all sorts of insight.
Well, it's become busy, and I hope that, India wouldn't have lost it, because the world's been looking at us, to discover spirituality, to find peace and everything.
Yeah.
And we have been very arrogant that, hey, we know God. We have so many gods, we just totally get it, and no one's doing their own self-study. That's what you were saying, that, whatever information is coming, you have to comprehend it. You have to live a life, working hard, and then get to the failures. What is failure? You have to work super hard to get failures.
Very interesting, very interesting. I want to zoom out a little bit at this point.
Sure.
Let's not talk about Zostel in specific for this moment. Let's talk about brand versus no brand. You built a brand in a category where brands did not exist as such. Nobody could imagine hostels being branded, at least in India. I'm sure a lot of that has also resulted in safety. People prefer you because they feel safe. A lot of females in the country would be traveling to hostels only and they would not prefer local. What I want to understand is not why hostel, But why would somebody prefer, any brand for that matter, versus something that is individual in nature? And then I also want to dive into what Zostel would specifically do to maintain and be able to live up to that brand expectation. Let's maybe take the example of a girl whose parents are a little more, scared to let her go out, just protective about her, etc.
Right.
There's so many of them around.
No, that's been our, I would say, thousands of emails and messages. And, it's lovely also, that's how India works, that, hey, we were able to get a permission to travel, right? So it does feel nice that somebody is getting permission to travel because of Zostel. It does feel a bit in that fashion that, hey, people still need permission to live their life. We are still that society, that with that love comes the desire for permission, but it's all fine, so. And so I think, with Zostel, things just get a bit easier, because it's not really, I think now, at least after we have open sourced and everything, it's not rocket science to open a backpacker hostel. We love telling people how to open a backpacker hostel. We have literally open sourced all of our SOPs, all of our financial working. I really wanted the revolution to be there. When somebody tells me that, hey, today there are 40,000 beds, 50,000 beds, you only have 4,000, 5,000 or whatever, what you have. So, but I'm super happy that, if we have 10% of market, very good. But now there is a market, people are traveling, so it's good. No, we have to discover our own soul again. What are we, how should we push more? And about your question, honestly, I feel that if somebody can run a truly passionate hostel, that will be better than, even Zostels, And, because Zostel, at the end of the day, we are a brand, so, and I keep pushing to keep the brand a lot behind. An individual person who's building the franchisee and the partner, over the region, a lot more ahead. And then there is their expression. If you look at each and Zostel, they're not templatized. People approach me from China and vendors, and then, you can have this prefabricated and then all templatized. But I went with art and soul that, each land needs its own art and own design and own spirit to come out. So each Zostel is an art on real estate. That's how we look at real estate. I really like to look at it. Yeah, totally. That, and not for money, etc. So those pieces have come out very beautifully. And that's when I say that, if somebody wants to truly do it, I would love to support them. I don't care that, it has to put a Zostel board. I'll give you a symbol of Zo.
So you spoke about how you've given a lot of creative liberty to all your partners to sort of set up their spaces in the name of Zostel, right? But at the end of the day, it's your brand that shows up to everybody. If I go and travel to X hostel,
it's eventually tough to give somebody else your baby and your brand.
Correct. So how do you still, as a founder or as a founding member, how do you ensure that some principles of Zostel, could be safety, could be an experience, could be whatever it is. How do you ensure, what are those non-negotiables first of all? And how do you still ensure that all of those principles are still abided by while maintaining creative liberty for the partner that you have? How do you do that?
It does, obviously, you got to be human at the end of the day. At Zostel, a lot is about that, being friends, a lot of healing in that fashion, between friends. And I think the way it works for us is with our Zostelers, or let's say citizens of our vision, Zo world we say. And we have a very direct line with them. So if you are, first of all, objectively, it reflects back in a less than 4.6 rating. So everybody, obviously, let's say we are doing 4,000, 5,000 people staying with us every day. So we get half of them as feedbacks, right? So basis that feedback, we are able to objectify that, hey, this is where we are today, each of the Zostel. So and now with AI like 4.6, the ratings going down. So everybody gets a weekly and everybody's connected. We have a central system in which all our partners, there are now 890 employees at our 100 Zostels. So they are like hired by Zostels, but we know each of them is verified by us. Each of them is not on our payroll, but we understand them. We have their KYC, their verification and everything. And then we are able to objectively communicate that, hey, room number 106, this guest has an issue with washroom. So that gets communicated around. So there's a lot of, we just had to discover all along the decade how to make a system in which as soon as the customer, even before check-in, we start off with, let's say, the right expectation setting, right? So maybe hostels are not for family. Sometimes people are coming there. So even before that, we'll say no before you go, right? So the experience starts with a lot of expectation settings. Then post check-in, you want to make sure that, they are updated about the expectations and anything and any issue that they are having. So we have our own central system in which any and all resolutions happen through us. We are also doing and innovating something that has not been done ever in the industry. Anybody who has had more brands, people run their own institutes, or people have very strong hires or city managers, etc. Whereas we went knee deep in community feedbacks via tech product. So that's where our system works. That hey, you want this good travel ecosystem? People are like, hey, we love the hostel, we love traveling. Okay, then tell us whichever is not doing good. Yeah. So people tell us that hey, this franchisee is not doing good. This manager is rude with us. And this is the issue I'm facing. So very humbly, it's only because of community and partners that Zostel is running and, we are surviving as an ecosystem and thriving. And we are beginning to take responsibility. We have become world's largest backpacker hostel now, and that's why I also said, what you said earlier, that independent hostels. So Europe had a lot of independent hostels, where our also desire was that, maybe we can organize it, maybe we can do something around it. Now I'm seeing the Middle East doesn't get it. United States doesn't get it. This is probably the only industry in which India is 10x ahead of America. Backpacker hostels. Right? And because now you can also see that, things are not just happening. People are making them do it. No one better than you or worse than you. But people do things, So we did over here, so there is a backpacker ecosystem. The world can do more with it. Very hopeful, man. 20,000 pin codes are there in India, 741 districts. There's so much more story to be told. Our stories are yet not told. There is no ecosystem yet, like Varkalas, small, bees, paragliding. They're all one pin codes, less than a pin code sometimes, right? And they all have so rich in India. Every 20 kilometers, you get a different flavor, a different culture, a different dialect, different rich history, thousands of years of history, different temples. And if you can just tell them well, you'll have an economy, the whole 4 trillion of GDP will add from pure travel. If you are able to tell the Indian story, is what I believe in the next 10 years.
From what I've heard, you as a company do not advertise. You don't do celebrity endorsements, you don't do influencer ads, etc.
None.
So in this context of telling India's story or, sort of promoting travel within India, how do you think this sort of situation?
Maybe now, maybe we might do it now. Maybe from the podcast we find somebody who's taking less money and more passionate, And but jokes aside, we never had a demand problem.
Okay.
Never spent a single penny on marketing on any platform, be it Google or Facebook or anybody else. And Day Zero had an idea of an environment that people will love. So they shared about us. So truly speaking, we really have made people influencers, if I'll be very honest. That, lots of great travel influence. And I say it very humbly, not we have made, but we have done our part as a platform.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of Zostel and because people would travel early on and share those stories, they would naturally then become how do you even become a travel influencers if there is nothing to travel? If there are only 3 cities to travel, right? So we did that thing in India, and then obviously the whole ecosystem kicks off. And I think obviously if somebody is sharing about Zostel, they are also gaining a lot of followers, but very humbly, we also keep getting new chunk of people. There's always a new order, there's always a new youth, there are always people maturing, getting married, and then moving beyond hostels. But I always care about that young 18-year-old, DV who's still figuring out things and doesn't know, what to do, where to go, just ends up at a backpacker hostel.
Right.
And from there, things happen.
Beautiful. I think very interesting because, I told you this off camera, but personal experience, I've never found a available Zostel for myself. So, I told you I went to Varkala recently. We were hunting for a Zostel. So when I travel with my friends, I usually don't travel solo. We've got a group of 4 or 5 guys. We all travel together.
I love traveling with friends.
Right. So, we're usually relative last moment travelers in terms of, 1 week before is when we realize, oh shit, we can go here.
Right.
So yeah, honestly speaking, we've never been able to successfully find a hostel.
No, I want more supply. I want more supply and more passionate people to come up. And we are also pushing the edge. We are now doing Zo Villas. We are doing some co-living cool stuff. We did Zostel Plus also. But still, there's a lot more depth to be done. And I'm very hopeful even with this that, anybody who wants to do anything cool in real estate and hospitality, we work with partners, right? So I'm very hopeful that if we have even 10x more supply, then I am very sure, this problem of not being able to host people. I am myself a traveler like that. I love traveling at the last moment. So the hostels are usually occupied many times.
Talk to me about these other properties that you just spoke to me about. Other IPs that you sort of have apart from hostels.
Right.
What is the thought process behind those? What are these?
Yeah. See, Zostel Plus is one. So we saw a natural progression that people love community, but they also like luxury. So we have an aspirational in which we have, let's say, jacuzzis, private rooms, 10,000, 15,000 private rooms.
But the vibe remains the same, is what?
The vibe remains the same. It's now a 4-acre place, right? Which has a campsite, which has dormitories, which has a large tug of war field, which has a box cricket. So we can also play around and do a lot more with the real estate. And it has we now just did in Mumbai personal hammocks in 5-6 rooms. And heated jacuzzis in beer at lots of places. So Zostel Plus, just very simple. Get a little bit more safety, security, I'll say, that because from the brand expectations are rising, and we also want to have a lightweight backpacker brand. So Zostel Plus becomes our luxury side of expectation and settings. Then with larger groups, we couldn't allow them, you and me, sometimes send the boys and the groups, they destroy the vibes, right? There are 10 people together, they don't care about anyone else, they'll play loud music,
right?
They'll get drunk and sloshed, and for us, it's all about the community and the solo traveler.
Yeah.
So I think that's what also we are very unique, differentiated. In the whole world, people largely accept groups. We haven't rejected them for so long, because I still wanted young solo female, solo male to explore themselves. And but for them, we now have Zo Villas, in which you get a 3-room, 4-room, 2-room individual personal villa with caretaker and some, help around as well. And you just book it completely. As for your friends and for your large groups and everything. So we added that category, around 20 properties we already have there. Then we have been experiencing or exploring a bit more on, let's say, the long-term living front. Let's say co-living directions and etc. With apartments and everything.
Okay.
So we do have a hacker house, a Zo house product over there. Very limited supply once again, because very depthful. You'll see what we do with Zostel is we go a lot more in depth. So it's difficult to go in breadth. If I just want anybody to partner with us, we get at least 25 hotels a day who want a Zostel, right? We're very selective, less than 1% filter out. But yeah, so we had to open a bit more categories. And we are also, Zo Selections is coming up. That's a bit more hotels and resorts,
Okay.
But the common sense is the community angle. So community works, youth works, and then each real estate, we do meditate around that, hey, how do we have something over here? Is it a product we can discover with the community, shared spaces? And the things do pop up.
Interesting. What do you think is that one or those two things which sort of tie all of these properties and differentiating things together?
No, I just said, and get it, I maybe answered it in the energy before you asked also. But it's the community aspect. It's fine to talk with other people. It's fine to introduce yourself. And the ecosystem is going even more deeper. Now, even if you're not staying at a hostel, there are chats that might come. We are doing events in Bangalore for the community to meet up and experience. So the whole lifestyle side and the ecosystem side of the Zo community is really coming together now.
But how does this work out in practice? I'll give you an example of what I think. In a hostel, the format is more dorm-like, which is let's assume there are 6 beds. So there's very little for me to do in my room. I can't just sit in bed all day. I can't sit in my room all day. So I naturally have to get out. And the moment I get out, there's a common area. So there's a shared understanding that it's okay to talk to, him, 5 other people. But in, let's say, an Airbnb sort of concept, which is the villa type of thing, there is enough and more for you to do in your own villa, in your own room.
Right. So you can't expect over there, and obviously that's with your own friends.
Right.
You want the privacy largely.
Right.
You're staying over there, one friend, one group. But there is a city cosm, right? As we are talking about, the people will, while you're going to Umid Palace, or you're going to a dinner, or you're going to a club, that's where somebody who might be staying in a villa, somebody who might be staying at a Zo house or a hostel, might still come out and go to that place together in that fashion. But yeah, as you are saying that, largely there's no larger community in the villa play, within the villa. But other than that, I think dormitories are going to penetrate a lot of even luxury establishments. What I mean by that is what we have discovered is Zostel have now almost 50% of rooms as private rooms. Still 50% as dormitories. Our larger Zo selections, or let's say Zostel Plus, dormitories are still there. They might be less. In a 50-room place, there might be only 10, 12 rooms that are dormitory. But the environment, because of those dormitories and common room, the ground rules are established that, hey, now you have a personal space in your room also. And if you want to, you can come out and play games also. So a bit more choices, evolving ecosystem.
Interesting. So I think the larger problem sort of to look at over here would be how do you communicate that message saying it's okay to get out of your room and talk to the person who's in the next room.
Even more than that, I think it's a naturally inviting environment. While you go to hostels, you'll see that the environment is such that you'll enter, you'll say, hey, we are doing a 7 p.m. Jenga, we are doing 9 p.m. at common room. So you'll know that, there's an energy that's calling me, in that fashion. Why should I only stay in the room? I anyways watch Netflix at my home only. I can go down and at least check the vibes. So once you are there in the check the vibes, we have a community manager who will understand you, get you to mingle around, make it easier for you to meet other people. And then you'll get lost and you'll have fun.
Interesting. No, I completely relate to that get lost and have fun situation because
you have been to hostels.
I have been to hostels and I've been the exact same personality who
you want to get how the boundaries break gradually.
Correct. So I've actually seen that play out in my life personally. So I've been an introvert for the longest part of my life.
Now doing podcast.
and then here I am sitting on a podcast. But anyway, so the point is I think you're very right. So from being an introvert, I've seen that barrier break. Especially when I travel, right? So it's just that hindrance. In fact, forget hostels for a minute. Even when you're on the road and you need to ask somebody for directions, there's that weird hesitation that a lot of people have seen have that, how can I ask? You ask. It's just that they just keep pushing their friend or their parents or whoever. You ask.
Right. No, I also had the same, man. I was also an introvert. I'll meet other people from, let's say, other countries. Dharamveer, even if I'll introduce my name, it'll be funny. They can't even speak my name. Like Dharamveer Singh Chouhan, like half 2 minutes, Dharamveer, okay, DV, okay.
Yeah.
So I think, in that fashion, being an introvert, why should I even talk? There are those fears, that you have to cross. And then, be natural with your accent and everything, especially across cultures. I think we should interact.
So earlier in the podcast, you spoke about how establishments are sort of coming up, around hostels now, especially in places where you set up in barren land, so to speak. If I were a person who were to set up an establishment based on the fact that there is a hostel coming up or existing here, how do you think I could be looking at this as a business person? What are certain establishments which could potentially come up thanks to a hostel? Which are the peripheral establishments? Food is, of course, a basic thing, but beyond food, what are the other sort of establishments a hostel goer or a backpacker would really enjoy?
As soon as there is a hostel, I think the first thing, if you can see a hostel coming up, buy land around, be rich. When there is a hostel in a village or a place, the whole area starts to pop up, right? And that's where we are getting at, or what you were discussing also. So what happens is, because it is such a place, many times people come to hostels who are very well to do. They are like, they've done investment banking for 20 years. They've like done the money thing, right? Obviously, there are all spectrums of people, but there are people who have done that.
Yeah.
And when they come to a hostel, they might find what they are searching for. And in that fashion, they let go of things. And when they start fresh, they do look around. Their passion might be German bakery, So they find a rented place there, so that's there. As you're talking about food itself has like a bakery food, there's a fast food to it, there's a local food, there's a Maggie stall that you can pop up around. And not just at hostel, like even from hostel, there are treks that go, right, at different places. People love exploring. So even if there you will do establishments, you'll start making money, depending on all the different level. Like I don't know if there are going to be, and hopefully I am that, there might be some Maggie wala or like an entrepreneur who's running a Maggie shop also gets to see our podcast, but like if there are other establishments or let's say somebody who's a senior entrepreneur then there are a lot of autos that start popping up.
Auto rickshaws?
Auto rickshaws.
Okay.
So a lot of our hostels have parking in which there are auto entrepreneurs who would take 5-10 autos, they'll park over there.
Okay, tell me a little more about it. This is
like how do young people travel, right? So like everybody's doing a 1,500 rupees city tour. An auto will come and tell you that, hey, I'll take 3 people and you'll possibly partner with the local franchisee already. We'll probably institutionalize the experience a lot more. But then what's happening is then these people act as local guys. They do your whole city tour in Jaipur for $1,500. 2 people in the auto, they'll take you to different places. Good for everybody involved. Same at work, let's say Hampi also at different places. You'll see that people are doing that. Then the whole e-bike thing, like from Royal Enfield rental to scooty rentals, etc. In fact, the hostel accommodation revenue is 20%.
Okay.
The wallet share of an individual who is backpacking is spending $80 out of 100 on other things. That is our ecosystem contribution. The person who's traveling, then he's spending almost more than that from the stay in food itself, almost equivalent in travel itself, almost equivalent in experiences, be it paragliding, be it surfing. So the 5x economy that develops from just one backpacker hostel.
Wow. That's absolutely fascinating. So I think given that I talk a lot about marketing, branding, etc. on my channel here, I was reading up if Zostel has done anything whatsoever. So I came across this something that you guys did very, very long ago, which was this campaign called Chief Exploratory Officer.
Like best internship ever.
Correct. So I'm referring to that one. And I'm guessing you did this back in the day when social media did not
the brand.
Correct. You were establishing the brand. That's one. But social media did not exist even close to the way it exists today.
Today, right.
And I was looking at the numbers. You all got like 70 or 1,000 entries.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the experience.
10 million visitors or maybe something.
That's absolutely nuts. So talk to me about the experience of what happened in the room as a young entrepreneur at that point. What are the kicks like?
Like everybody got to do their own thing. So as the CEO, like everybody else had placed. And then when everybody else was placed, then the challenge came to me that we have to design now marketing, now campaign. But okay, now then I can flow. I had one intern, 2 interns I had, one tech intern and one design intern.
Okay.
Right. And the whole campaign was designed in a manner, it was very tech integrated. Like the registrations were through Facebook, the points in the leaderboard sharing would be on Facebook. And the whole premise, I think that really vibed with the people towards best internship ever. And you have to be zoned in, man, right? So it was a great high, I will say that. For almost 1 month we ran the campaign.
Okay.
And I personally looked it up, like I personally designed it, executed it with barely interns, right? But the idea was there. And we actually made money from our own marketing campaign. We got sidetracked and, we did a lot of more venture capital and business. But the best internship ever, we actually made 5 lakh money from our own marketing campaign also.
How do you make money out of it?
See, it's just like you built an IP, I think MTV gave us some money, then Wildcraft gave us money for sponsorship, then Red Bull gave us, so it was the whole campaign, right? We can do season 2, season 3.
Correct.
And I think like we might, now you have given me the seed, I might bring out a grander version of the best internship ever, and travel the world this time. Inspire the world to travel the world, something random.
No, this is extremely fascinating because not too many brands have the power of being able to, get further brands to get involved in their campaigns. Making money is also separate. Being just able to collaborate with so many different varieties of brands. You mentioned Wildcraft, backpacks, etc. There could be a Decathlon for shoes, whichever way. There could be like culture setter brands. So many variety of
possibilities
brands
are pretty high.
Absolutely endless.
Our community and
right.
So still keeping our head down, doing the grunt work.
Yeah.
But probably from, even as you're saying, from the merchandise side, from partnership side, I want to find trusted partners.
Right.
In each and every category, from coffee to shoes to streetwear to let's say winter wear or whatever. Bring the whole ecosystem together and make it easier for customers.
Very interesting. I have a last few questions for you. In your experience of running Zostel for the last 10, 12 years, what has the entire experience taught you about building a brand, a trusted brand in a low trust space that's inherently low trust, low permission, low everything in some sense? What are the insights?
Low trust society only, right? At the end of the day in India, right? So I think it's what is brand, right? At the end of the day, it's trust. Unfortunately, the barrier is so low in India that if you want to do something good out of love and trust, wish there was a shortcut, as we discussed, no money we were able to spend. We stick to first principles that I give you good service and have faith in you. And you'll tell people that it's an amazing place, right? So we got lucky, and I think even we are today, I'm very sure that people will discover Zostel even today. It's been 12 years. But we have not done even 1% of our job yet, right? People are still discovering Zostel, that backpacker hostel. You also help people understand that this is a way to travel. I think, but that does allow us to be and have a novel element to the brand that people like to discover things, right? We're all humans. You show me something new and cool, why not? And but I think now with 12 years, and especially in the cool crowd, we have been discovered. So we must also reinvent ourselves and push the boundaries with, let's say, Zo trips. 10, 12 people coming together, traveling to Oman, traveling to Thailand. Cool stuff we are doing. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. We're doing that, bringing together. So I think that keeps us also going. With other partners, we do experiment, fail, and then bring more people together in the ecosystem.
Interesting. And we spoke about this in the beginning of the podcast that we're talking to younger folks here.
Okay,
Pretty
all
much
right.
below the age of
Lovely,
25.
lovely. I only like talking with them. Yeah.
So what would your advice as a founder, as a person who's run a brand, be to a person who wants to build something in a low touch category, in a more immature category, so to speak? What would your advice to that person be who's willing to build a brand in that space?
Yeah, I'll probably start that, do not start it till you know why you are starting it.
Okay.
Just delete everything, stop following this cool podcast or that, hey, I'll do this just now. Please, let's be honest with ourselves. I want at least you guys to don't be dragged down with some media coverage, some billion-dollar news or some. If you have left the most beliefs that, the job doesn't work, etc., please be bold enough to leave all beliefs and start from as fresh as possible. And I want to see all of your expression, but once you know why you are doing things, you will communicate absolutely clarity, your brand will be built, things will fall in place. You have to follow your path and people will join. Stop planning, start doing.
Pretty cool. One last question before we close. If, God forbid, Zostel were to disappear tomorrow entirely, what was that one or two things that you think the Indian travel industry as a whole would lose out on?
I think the one who keeps pushing the edge, I'm very happy that there are now 50,000 backpacker hostel, other brands that will be there. But to keep finding faults within, to keep saying that we are bad, we have to be better. If I looked outside and wanted to do something, the bar of threshold will be lesser. Think beyond, let something come from inside and infinite.
Right.
And I think at Zostel, we keep pushing that. And I'll give you one example. Like, let's say, I traveled around backpacker hostels in Europe. Then I picked up the good, the bad from anywhere and everywhere, right? So I picked up that every backpacker hostels, there's many backpacker hostels never had graffiti. I love graffiti, so I picked that up, that, all hostels will have graffiti. At that point in time, many European top branded backpacker hostels, you did not have charging and light necessarily at every bed.
Yeah.
Many good ones. I made sure that we did it at Zostels. And because everybody else got inspired from Zostel, so everybody made sure that there is graffiti, there is a light, there is a place for yourself in the bed also. And that set the standard, right? From a common room, etc. Hey, there will be. So I want, and I know for that fact that, people get easy in life. So at Zostel, we want to be uneasy. We want to keep pushing the edge, rediscover ourselves and be fearless in that fashion and live it now.
Yeah.
Look at it. So that's all people will miss. If there's no Zostel, then maybe people will get a lot more easier in life.
No, I think this was a wonderful chat, DV. I think, in the age of information overload, just honestly discovering your own self, just being with your own self rather. I mean, discovering your own self is also a little heavy as a word, but just being with your own self, just giving yourself some time to spend with your own self, I think is...
Understand things.
Yeah.
In this information overload, what does it mean, right? So there's what is intelligence itself. You have to, in this whole data information that is flowing out, you have to compress things and comprehend them, comprehension, and simplify them so that you have a belief and a model to live your life yourself and not be swayed around, the next high and the dopamine that comes your way.
Absolutely. And travel very much gives you
Travel,
that.
please, hopefully travel, and then zo.
Superb. This was a wonderful chat. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Anurag. Pleasure talking. And hopefully, we break all the record for views on your channel.
Superb. Thank you so much.
All right. Zo.